Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace and former Ottawa Senator Jason York.
Happy game day, everybody. Welcome to Coming In Hot. Brent Wallace alongside Jason York. Graham is saving lives today. Mike Rupp is going to join us shortly. Rupper, as we like to call him. We have lots of questions about him just being an NHL analyst now and what he thinks about the Sens, plus his playing days, about facing Chris Neal, a fight he's had with a current Ottawa Senator, and of course, playing for the Danbury Trashers. He is actually a really, really good guy. I quite like Mike. Anyway, good morning, Yorkie.
How you feeling today? Tell you, I'm still a little bit juiced from our interview yesterday with
juice.
With juice, yeah. That was, you know what, Wally, I'll say this. It was yesterday. I would say that show was a 9.5 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10.
Okay. So now I can only focus on the 0.5. That what happened to the 0.5?
I got to tell you, great show.
I don't know why I asked.
We could have used a little more chit chat.
So I've never, so in the history of, I don't know how many episodes we've done, there's been nothing that has caused as much conversation as chit chat. So here's the thing. By the way, the chit chat wasn't even, we discussed the Sens. Like some people like the chit chat. I'm like, we've talked about the Sens and stories about the Sens. So all trivia questions, all prizing is now going to be included in whatever this chit chat is that people think that they have to listen to.
So we're going to we're taking the prizing and are we doing we can't do ad reads doing chit chat too, can we?
Yeah. No, it's, like, I don't understand if we're not, people just want to, I guess, discuss the game itself and that's it. And I'm like, well, no, there's a lot more to it. We have access to players where we get to tell stories about these players. I'm not going to just talk about the Sens game from Montreal and move, and that's it. That's just not what I want to do.
People want to know about Salty Wally. They want to know about your travels to Thailand. They want to know what's going on in the day-to-day lives.
Maybe we're like the mullet of podcasts where it's a lot of business on top, but a party in the back of it.
How about Timmy? I actually said you had good hair.
I think we're gonna have to cut that clip and just air it occasionally.
You wanted to get a haircut and all that?
I have one tomorrow.
Well, you can't get it now. Tim,
I don't know. I'm thinking I should.
It's like you're a little bit smitten with Timmy. And
it's too early. It's too early, Yorkie. It's too early.
And he said he loves your gray hair. You got a little red faced when he said that. By the way,
getting hot in here.
Cool boy. Anyways, that was my God. Because that's the first time I thought you had him on back when you used to do the show with Meth, but
no, tried.
Oh, it was so tough to get players on long ago. He had to do the old take a right here, go around here, and then not announce players were coming on the show until 5 minutes before because they'd be told to cancel. That's no way to run a talk show, Wally. See,
no, it had its challenges.
How can you run a talk show when you can't get guests?
We got them. We just had to go around them.
Take a detour.
Yeah. So we had to pick them up in an unmarked car and under the bridge and drive them to an undisclosed location.
Okay. Meth, I've got Stutzla. He's in the car. We're coming in. I've got him. He's on. Damn it. They found us. He's off the show.
They did that. DJ Smith. 20 minutes.
I was on that. Well, I was with you when we had DJ. DJ was.
That's right.
DJ. People have a misconception. Well, not really, because everybody knows DJ's a great guy. Super personable. Yep. One of the best people in hockey. We had him lined up to come on the show, and it's like he called you, and I can't come on. Sorry.
Come on. Yeah. Yep, that was our first show, and so
better times now. We get Timmy Juice Stutzla on the show. Yeah. We got Rupper coming on now. It's good days are ahead, Wally. See, that's why with chit chat, don't focus on the negative. Because the negative voices are always the loudest in the world. We know that. Yeah. Positive people don't say anything. They sit back, they have their coffee, and they enjoy the chit chat.
Well, let's chat away. Let's go. By the way, the show brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment's never ordinary. Bet365. Yorkie, let's take care of some business. Rupper's going to join us, I think, in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I knew we were going to try and take care of some stuff before he came on, so I didn't want to waste his time with chit chat. So let's take care of some business. This show brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. With an 85 locations across the country, proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and unbeatable pricing policy. Check out a large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds. Don't pay until 2026. And don't forget to sign up for the Charm Diamond Flexity card today. Get pre-approved and no interest financing in mere minutes. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. Chosen forever, Charm Diamond Centers.
I'll do the bass on that.
Wow.
And
You're
this,
getting into it.
yeah, well, you're inspiring me with those good pipes. Well, somebody tweeted, I don't know if we have this picture. Jake probably doesn't have it. It might have been the GIF of the year. Serge tweeted it out about 3 nights ago. It was a picture of you with a fantastic mustache. As like an old, it was like, and all I could see was Wally as an old school, like lounge crooner going in there and singing. Like it was your face with the perfect mustache. So I think this is something you got to consider, getting the mustache. Keep the gray hair long.
Trouble. Is that Frank McDougall or was it Serge?
It was Frank. It was
Frank.
Frank. It was Frank. It was so good. Sorry, Frank. Where do we got it?
Oh. I think I look pretty good.
Okay. Anyone who's listening on the pod now that can't see it, do yourself a favor and you got to see these pictures of Wally with the stash. I think you look better with the mustache. The question is it going like with the thick one here on the left or the handlebars?
Well, it won't be handlebars, but the thick one looks. I could be a police detective, or a lounge singer, or Travis Hamonic.
Do you know, you kind of look a little bit like J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man there. The angry guy that runs the Daily Bugle.
Yes. Yeah.
You are J. Jonah Jameson. And he's crusty too. Very salty.
Give me that story. Okay. Can you?
Anyways.
Okay, back to work.
Back to work. Sorry there, anti-chit-chatters. Are we doing Tim's Hortons here?
Yeah.
Of course we are. I'm going to grab a Timmy's on my way out of town today, heading to Toronto for Hockey Helps the Homeless, little charity adventure. So I'm going to grab my Timmy's and hopefully I'll roll up to win because it's back at Tim Hortons. You can win millions of prizes with just the swipe of a thumb. And imagine turning that Tim's run into an unforgettable chance to win a sell-off vacation or $1,000 cash prize or one of those beautiful all-new electric 2025 Volkswagen ID buzzes. But you only have till March 23rd. So open up that app and get rolling. Canada, it's your game. So don't let this chance of winning millions of amazing prizes pass you by. Play Roll Up the Win to win on the Tim's app today.
Hurry, because cups are running out, by the way. And golf season quickly approaching, especially with this winter. One membership with Club EG gets you access to 60 amazing courses. Club EG is your best bet for amazing golf in and around Ottawa this season. Member-only rates. So if you sign up for a Club EG membership, you get member-only rates at these 60 courses. Check them out online. Lots of them to choose from. Like we've given away passes to Equinel, the Marshes, Hammond, Mountain Creek. We're going to give a Mountain Creek one away today as well. Check them out, clubeg.golf. See what maybe the package fits you the best and sign up today. And I will say for today, complimentary foursome to Mountain Creek, which is Arn Pryor. If you just happen to email the show, cihsends@gmail.com, let's tee it up with Club EG. And I will give you a winner by the end of the show live. Also, Yorkie, let's not forget, it's day number 2 of the clues for the Tim giveaway jersey. Signed jersey, signed yesterday. So I'm anxious to see if there's a pod bump for him, especially with the signed jersey. Drake Batherson signed a jersey, hat trick the next game.
Yeah, this is going to be a big test for the pod bump. Timmy, fresh off the show from yesterday, playing Colorado tonight. And Colorado, they're going to be. Did you see that bounce off the referee last night in Toronto?
Okay, let me get through the contest before you sidetrack the show again.
Okay. All right.
Here's today's clue. By the way, people that don't like chit chat, all clues will be inside the chit chat. If anybody's wondering, how fast did Tim Stützle drive on the Autobahn? How fast did Tim Stützle? Now, here's the thing. So there's a clue yesterday. There's a clue today. Don't email the show until next Wednesday after you have all 5 clues. And then you email cihsens@gmail.com. I will tell you Thursday, because Yorkie won't be here, on who is going to win the Tim Stützle jersey. Okay.
There is no speed limit, by the way, on the Autobahn, I believe. Isn't it like unlimited?
It is unlimited. That is correct.
Can you imagine going that fast?
Oh, no. But don't tell people.
I'm not going to tell people.
Okay.
If you think it's fast, it's faster. So there's your one clue. Take the over. Take the over on the over-under on the if you're not sure.
And quickly, last one, I think, before Mike is going to show up.
Sobeys.
Think you know hockey? Play Sobeys My NHL Picks weekly for a chance to win big prizes. So it's starting today. You go to the My Sobeys app, download the app, pick 5 games from the upcoming week, and then you get entered into prizes at the end. So on Wednesday, you find out if you've picked all 5 winners or not. So download the Sobeys app, pick the winners of 5 NHL games, and compete for a chance to win prizes such as Sobeys grocery offers, up to 150,000 Scene Plus points, or the grand prize of a trip for 4 to this year's Stanley Cup final. And now, without further ado, the guy that played over 600 NHL games, won a Stanley Cup, 67 playoff games. He was like a playoff super performer. By the way, had 2 goals in his very first NHL game. And now he's a fantastic NHL analyst. Mike Rupp, sir, we'd like to welcome you to the show.
You guys there? You got me?
I got you.
Gotcha, Rupper.
I lost you now. Leave it to me to mess this up. I'm not seeing it, so just give me one quick second. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
Chris Neal probably is affecting this somehow.
I'm back.
Chris.
We figure Chris Neal had probably had something to do with it.
Hey, I ran into Neal last season. I was doing a Penguins game up there in Ottawa, and it's just funny when you're done. Yorkie, I'm sure you'd say the same here too. It's guys that you battled with for so long, and I played against Neal back in the Ontario Hockey League days, and I'm like, there's something about seeing his face that just makes you get like a little hot flashes and you're ready to go. And I saw him, and couldn't have been a nicer human being. It was just cool, like to go up and say hi to him, and it's obviously seeing what he's doing there in Ottawa, and man, he was a gamer. He was a guy I would have loved to have played with.
It's crazy, Rupper, when you run into guys that you kind of had battles with. Like I was playing in one of those charity events, and I run into Rafi Torres. I don't know if you know Raf, but off the ice, and I never really knew him that well. But what a great guy! Like just a wonderful, wonderful guy. But anybody that watched him play would say, "Well, how can that guy be a good guy off the ice?" But it's kind of funny. The guys that kind of play on the edge, and especially the tough guys, they're usually the best guys. It's always that way.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I just think even over the course of my career, I had Aaron Asham was my first NHL fight. And both of us bounced around what is now the Metro Division, quite a bit of teams in those divisions. I have my most career fights against Aaron Asham, and I've played with him on 3 separate occasions in the NHL, and I loved him as a teammate. We actually were really good together on the same line as a depth line, and it was just kind of funny. It was, it was just kind of part of the business, right? And you love the guy, but at the same time, I also knew if I needed to get a fight, he'd be the one to give it. So you always knew you had that in your back pocket.
Rupper, he was sneaky, like not even sneaky tough. Like, how did those fights go with Asham? He's a tough guy.
Yeah, so I didn't really fight a ton when I first kind of turned pro, and I remember so Pat Burns was our head coach in Jersey, and Brent, you mentioned it. My first NHL game, right? We're always just trying to make the score sheet, make an impression. Mm-hmm. I was always taught, and I still firmly believe it now, like just get noticed in a game. And we used to always be told, just make the score sheet, right? So the first NHL game that came by offense, and I got 2 goals in that game. And the second game, I think it was actually it may have been my second game. things weren't going as good. So we got in a little pushy match in front of the bench, and I dropped the gloves with Asham, and I was controlling him pretty good, but he's slippery. Like, he's not a really big guy, but he was slippery, and he kind of got behind my grip and got behind me, and was just, it was an uncomfortable spot for me, and but it was a good little fight. But then I remember guys were like, hey, he could throw him, so just now that you show that you can hang in there, like, start doing this some more. And but Ash was he was one, and he had a big punch. There's something with the confidence in the way he did it too. Like, he would just get bigger guys would say something to him or try to intimidate, and he was just like, yeah, I'll fight. Yeah, we'll go. And I thought that was always something that put people aback, because you wouldn't expect it from a guy of his size. But man, he was tough as nails.
Absolutely.
I was gonna reverse the show then. I was gonna start talking about the Sens now, but I have a bunch of questions about your career. So one of them is, speaking of size wise, you went against Zdeno Chara, and I'm curious.
Oh yeah.
Was there ever a moment you went, maybe
right there? You mean? Yeah. So I knew Z casually from the Islanders. So I was drafted by the Islanders in '98, and I still remember. And going into training camp there, Garden City Hotel on Long Island, and I remember Z had a rental car, and that was one of my first things I remember with him. And I don't know what it was, but it was like something of the size of like a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord or whatever it was. And it was like I just saw big knees and like a little steering wheel in between. It was like Mario Kart. But he was, I knew Z again very casually then. This actually happened. This was the game, first time Pens playing Bruins after the Matt Cook, Mark Savard hit. So we were in Boston, and you knew there was an appetite for something to happen in this game. And Cookie fought Sean Thornton pretty much right off the hop. But the big man Z, I remember he was like, we had a face off, and he asked me to fight, and we were winning in the game, I think 1-0 at the time. And I said, hey, let's just see. I'll give it to Z, but like, let's wait till the third period here. And he's like, I understand. And I go, I understand that you're the captain, you want to do something here, but just let's make sure that I don't want to sewer myself with the coach, right? And so he's like, I understand. So then he kept asking me each shift, and it was like so polite in the way he was asking. It felt so weird. He said to me, it again, the years have gone by. It was something on the lines of like, it was almost like, may I have this fight? And I'm like,
after you
turn to him, and I kind of look, I'm like, no. And I'm like, well, it's 1-0, all that stuff I already said. So as the game, he keeps asking me, and he keeps going, come on, Rupper. He's like, please. And I'm like, so finally we score, and I think it ends up going maybe, I don't know if it was 3-0. We got out like a 3-goal lead. So now I need to do it, Rupper. And I remember right after the goal, line up center ice. I'm on the next shift out there, and I line up with Sean Thornton, and Thornton goes, hey, the big man wants you. And I kind of lean back, and I look back, and I just see Z back there, and he's going, come on, please, like this. And I'm like, okay, and drop the gloves. And as soon as, to your point, though, as soon as I went in there, man, it's not, I don't envy the guys who gave up size in fights. And I was very rarely in that position. So I was very fortunate, just from human nature of my build. I don't know why I squared up with them. My punches were landing like 3 feet short. Anyways, he finishes up. He's on top of me. He took me down. He beat me. And he kind of patted me, and he was just like, thank you very much. It was the most polite butt kicking I've ever gotten.
Thank you. I enjoyed that, Mr. Rupp.
Yes.
You know what's funny about Big Z, because I played with him my last year in the league, Rupper, and number one, everybody knows the stories of how strong he is and doing all the pull-ups and all that. But I actually think in fights, especially if he was fighting a real small guy, he wouldn't go as hard as he could.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I actually think he'd kill somebody. Like, he was, and you fought him, so you would know firsthand how strong he is. But I just think it's a rare occasion of a guy knew how big and strong he was, that he would actually, you know what, I better not hit him this hard because I might really hurt him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's times where I think that you've seen him in those types of moments too. I would say probably his last when he was with the Islanders, though. I can't remember who it was, but he teed off on a couple guys. So I don't know
Yeah.
if maybe towards the end of the career he had a little bit more of a maybe less of a threshold on that, where
Yeah.
he a couple guys he was like, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy still got it. I don't think he always had that, but to your point, I mean, this guy, everybody knows Nato. I mean, this guy's the class of class. And as weird as that sounds for the non-hockey fan, this guy approached his physical play, intimidation, all those things. He did that with class, if that makes any sense. And
Yeah,
I
100%.
think that goes a long way. I think that's why a lot of guys, every guy that I've ever met, has nothing but good things to say about him.
Yes, especially playing that position. Okay, Chris Neal, your thoughts on Nealer? Because I know you guys have had your run-ins. You got a 10-minute misconduct each in a playoff game, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been game one. Do you have many memories of facing number 25?
Oh yeah, I mean, Nealer, again, going back to the OHL days, he was one where here's the thing. You always knew when he was on the ice, and I knew even the way that I played. You knew where you have to. That's something that's kind of a missed thing in the league now. Is I'm not really sure if everybody understands, because there's a few guys out there still that can do Chris Neal type things, and they don't know when they're out there like that. That's first and foremost. You got to know who's on the ice with you, and I always knew that. But it was actually more that what I was very uncomfortable with is when Nealer was on the ice and I wasn't, because you'd sit there, the puck would go. He'd dump it in, or someone would chip it in the corner, and you see him hounding down on a defenseman, or a defenseman wheeling the net. And I'm like on the bench, I'm just standing up yelling, trying to get just heads up, he's coming. And I mean, he hit so hard. He's a good player. And I think that's what made him really effective too, is that he can play out there against other lines. He kind of always had everything at his disposal, as far as, because you could always sit there and have a cop out in a situation and be like, hey, beat it. You don't play enough. You don't do this. Well, no, he's out there in some pretty pivotal parts of a game, and he could be out there with your top end guys. And for me, that made me nervous that he's out there when Patty Elias is on the ice, or he's out there with Zach Parise on the ice. Because now I'm like, I can't control that. I'm not playing with those guys. So it's like you can't really police those situations. And that's what Chris Neal made you uncomfortable. I think that's the best way to explain. He makes the opponent uncomfortable.
Yeah, because he wasn't just a fourth line guy that played 5 minutes. He's a third line checker who was he was a force. A lot of people don't give him, I think, the respect of his ability to actually play the game.
Hard. Hey, so Rupper, you brought up a great point there, because when you came into the league, there was like each team had a couple guys that could hurt you, and not with fighting, with hitting.
Yeah,
like you had to have a mental checklist when you got on the ice.
Yeah,
look at one of the
teammates in New Jersey.
Look at Scott. You play with Scott Stevens. Like, can you imagine somebody in today's game going on the ice with Scott Stevens? They would be hit. They would probably never play again, because it's just. I used to do it, and I don't know about you, just having a mental, this guy's there. If I don't have my head up, he can hurt me. This guy over here, Matt Cook, perfect. You played with Cooker. If you didn't know he was on the ice, bad things were going to happen. But hey, I don't want to be the guy that says the game today sucks and all this. It's totally different, but it's that mental checklist is kind of a lost art, because you said it. There's still a couple of guys out there in today's game. If you're not ready, you get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to understand when certain guys are out there, and again, at that time there's a lot more of them. Yeah. And but now it's like certain areas of the ice are always the danger areas. You got the internal clock that goes off. If you're in between the blue lines, you're in the neutral zone, and that puck's in your feet, and you look down, you got like 1,000, you're hit. You know what I mean? So it's at that point, if you're not making the play, get your stick up, protect yourself. I think those are always things that I think are still prevalent in today's game, and maybe even more so now. You see some big hits because guys aren't ready for those moments, maybe because there's not so many of them out there, right? And kind of catches you off guard. But yeah, you had to be aware. I mean, Scotty Stevens was one. Man, I think back to just even I always go back to the Stanley Cup Finals with that Paul Kariya hit. And so we're in Anaheim, and I was a rookie at the time, so I was doubling up towards the front of the bus, and Scotty, you know, we call him Dad, and he sat towards the front, so he sat directly across me in the hall in the aisle of the bus, and obviously had his own seat. And after the game, that moment, Paul Kariya comes back. I never saw anything like that before. That was a moment where I was like, oh, we might be in trouble here. Like, this guy comes back and he ends up roofing one on Marty, and this ends up going back to New Jersey. And I remember sitting on the bus, and Scotty's got this little light on in the seat above him, and he's reading a book, and we're sitting in the loading dock getting ready to leave, pulling out of the loading dock in Anaheim to go to the airport. And I kind of lean across and I go, hey, I'm like, Scotty, and he kind of like closes his book and leans over, and I go, you really got him, huh? And he goes, you know what, Rupper? And I'm like, what? He goes, I kind of let up at the last second. I'm like, oh Jesus. I'm like, I kind of like it was like lean across the aisle and said, and I came back to my seat. I'm like, my God, that was letting up a little bit. So he was a scary man. I was glad I played with him, but you know, a guy like that makes you feel that you're in good hands for sure.
Yeah. For anybody that's watching the show, and like, go back and watch that Scott Stevens hit on Paul Kariya. That's one of the hardest hits I've ever seen. And incredible that he actually let up on that hit, because that was devastating.
First Cup final I ever covered was the 02-03 Devils. Do you have Jeff Friesen story? Was he a little, I don't mean different. So here, I'll tell you, Rupper. So you guys beat Ottawa in the Eastern final.
Yeah.
And,
which was absolutely incredible series. And at the time, you can't rule out anything, but you felt it took us 7 games to beat Anaheim. So I want to make sure that that's established here. Like it took everything that we had to beat them. But you kind of felt like the Stanley Cup was won in that Ottawa series.
Yeah. That was a great series. Jeff Friesen scored, I think, 3 game-winning goals. Every day I had spoke to Jeff Friesen, he had scored a winner. Now, way
to go, Wally.
We did game 1, game 2. It's in New Jersey of the Cup final. And I think he scored one of those 2 goals, if I'm not mistaken. So I go to him, I go, Jeff, and it became a thing between the two of us. I go, I'm not going to Anaheim. He's like, what? I go, I'm not going to Anaheim. He's like, I need your number. I'm like, what? He goes, every day that we have talked, I've scored. I'm like, yeah, but so he would call me game days in Anaheim. He scored. Did he not score the series final or the game-winning final? Cup final. Did. So he would call me.
He had 2 goals in that game 7 there. Yeah.
Yes. I would be in my garage, just whatever. And he would, we would just chat about whatever's going on.
Chit chat.
That's incredible. I mean, it tracks. It tracks for, like, he was a very superstitious. I think a good way of explaining it, he was a great guy. Different cat when it came to preparation for hockey, like a little bit different than what
Rupper. He was nuts. I played with Friesen in Anaheim. I'm sure you've got some stories about his prep. Like, he was insane.
I'd say almost, no exaggeration, it felt like every day when you get to the rink, he always would get in there early. He's always walking around in his skates, and I'm like, Friese, why are you wearing your skates like every day? And he's like, I'm breaking them in. Then it happens, a couple days later, breaking them in. I'm like, you breaking in your skates every day? And then I learned that he would get a new pair of skates every, what was it? It was something like every 3 games. I think the max was 3 games in a pair of skates. So, and depending on how many practices between the games would maybe change that a little bit too. So I said to him, because we had, I guess, an allotment of skates, or however many the team, I don't know what it was. Say the team said we'll pick up the first 3 pairs of skates or 4 pairs of skates in the season. The rest is on you. I don't know what it was, but there was something, because he said to me that he ends up, I think he said he went through like 25 to 30 pairs of skates in a season. I'm like,
Lou
what?
Lamoriello must have lost his mind.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So like he's just like I need him. Remember, Friesen can fly. Like he can skate.
Great skater.
And crazy thing too, I remember the lie of his stick was so I've never seen a stick like that. Like I'm gonna stick over there, but whatever, you get the gist of it.
Yep.
Instead of the having like an angle, like it was a very low lie. Like I'm like, how do you shoot with this? It was a very strange. He was just so deep in his stance, the way he skated. But he's like, I need stiff skates, and he would pay that. And another time, he was on. I want to say he had like. I want to say he had something like it was like a goal a game rate that he was cooking at, like through 10 games, 12 games. He had like 10 or 12 goals through that amount of games. On fire. One of the hottest goal scorers in the league in that 3-week stretch or whatever.
Yep.
And we had weigh-ins every Monday, and Friesen weighed in a little heavy. In the middle of this thing, he's lights out, by far our best player. And Lou put him in Fat Club and put him on the bike like after every skate. And Friesen's just like, he has that deep voice. He's like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
I feel great. And it put him in a spiral, man. He's just like,
wow.
He couldn't. I'm like, why? I'm like, Lou, like he could have run off 30 games in a row, like the way he's playing, but he couldn't. He was garbage for like the next 10 games.
Oh, that's the worst guy to screw around with mentally when things are going right. Yeah. Rupper, I saw an all-time first when I played with Friesen, because his pregame prep, like he was so worried about not being ready to play. So he'd have like the Mountain Dew, and the American Mountain Dew is high test, and then he'd start drinking coffees, whatever else he was taking. Then I'm on the bench, and I accidentally drank out of this water bottle. It was Friesen's. He had coffee in it. He had coffee. He had coffee on the bench in his water bottle. I'm like, what the? I go, why do you have coffee? He's like, I'm just not feeling right. I need the coffee. But man, what an absolute.
Oh, we had so my roommate was Colin White, and so Friesen White.
By the way, not the Ottawa Senator Colin White, for those people.
Yes, no,
big D-man.
Yes, and there'd be times on the road where those guys. I was still young, so I was trying to toe the line, playing in the NHL. So those guys would go out after dinners, have some beers, and then it was like there's times where I'd be sleeping and they'd come back to the hotel, and then part of my like rookie and young player duties was I had to get up and talk to them when they got back. So I'd have to wake up, sit up in bed, and then we just sit there and like they would just be telling stories. We'd all just be talking. They wanted someone to talk. So when they came back from being out for a little bit, I had to sit up and talk stories with them the whole time. So it was good. They were great guys. Jeff Friesen was one of my favorites, and I was really fortunate in that finals. Pat Burns put me on a line with him and Jamie Langenbrunner because they were on fire all playoffs long.
Yeah. Okay. Last picture before I want to get to the Sens. 2 pictures. Sorry. You fought a current Ottawa Senator. You probably won't. I don't even know if you remember. Tough
Travis
guy.
Hamonic, yeah.
Noted tough guy, Travis Hamonic. Do you
Yeah,
remember this?
This was a fight night in the Coliseum. The story behind this one was kind of brewing here for a while. Remember Brent Johnson one-punch Ricky DiPietro, broke his orbital and
that's right. Forgot about that.
And so we had some buildup, and this is right towards the end of the year where, unfortunately for the Islanders, they were far out of the playoffs, so they just started calling up. They had a lot of tough guys on their roster, but the game prior to this, it was Max Talbot, I think, knocked out. I don't know. Was it Franz Nielsen?
No.
It was an elbow or a hit that kind of got away from Talbot. And so this is we're playing there. We don't really know what's going to happen, but we know that there's a lot of feisty players that are called up on roster, and the games were pretty nasty throughout the season. And Matt Martin on this shift just dropped the gloves and grabbed Max Talbot and jumped on him. So we're all squaring off. I'm trying to get in there. Hamonic's 19, I think, at this time. I don't really know much about him, but I'll tell you, I learned real quick he was strong as an ox, because we went in there and I'm trying to get to Matt Martin, and Hamonick's grabbing me and he's pulling me. I can't get either of my arms free to grab Martin. And I remember saying to Hamonick, like, more or less, let me go. And he's like, no, nothing here. And then I'm getting frustrated because I can't get in there to help my teammate out. So then I say to him, I'm basically, I felt like a parent scolding a kid. I was like, let me go or we're going to go, basically. And he's like, no, I'm not fighting. We're not fighting. And so I'm like, I'm going to count to 3 and then I'm going to start throwing. And I started going 3 and I'm like 2 and I start shaking my elbow pad off and he starts like, no, not that. And then, we end up dropping the gloves and he was strong. I couldn't get him. Like, it's a 19-year-old and we see what a great long career he's had. He's strong as an ox, man. But it was crazy. That was a game. We end up, all 4 of us there. I think it's Dupuis and Josh Bailey, myself and Hamonick all get ejected. We're in the locker room and Eric Goddard, thankfully we still had Godzi on the team. I think I think Derek England also got tossed in this too. So me and Ango were kind of like 2 guys that would fight. We only had probably Eric Goddard left, and they had Trevor Gillies, they had Haley, they had all these guys that were up, and it got even uglier after that. It was just one of those nights where just players are getting sent in the room. It was like a record-setting night at the Coliseum.
Good stuff.
Amazing.
I took way too much time going. I still have more questions to ask about your playing days because you played with a ton of people, lots of great stories. I don't want to take all your time. So I want to ask you about this year's Ottawa Senators. And speaking of Travis Hamonick and the Sens, do you like the makeup of this group as you get to watch from your perch at the NHL Network?
I do. I don't know how much you guys see of the NHL Network. I know it's up there for part of the show in Canada, but
the afternoon.
I've been loving Ottawa for a number of years now, and I've been one of the guys that I'm like, this is their year. This is the year and probably like most fans up there, the Sens fans, and I just thought that they're building, and every year it was like the same thing, and I'm like, oh, and then I come into the next season, and I'm like, here we go. I think this is it, and so there's been some disappointment, but also like I love what they've started to build, and I really thought, and I probably lump this year as well as. I felt the same thing about Detroit coming in this year. Like, this is kind of where the rubber needs to meet the road. Like this is it. Like, as far as a core group of players, and you could run it back so often, but eventually it's not working. And this is a year I feel like they're breaking through. And I saw something, and we could date it back. And remember, I mean, just every year it seems like Ottawa had those slow starts. They got going. And they're one of the streakiest teams I've seen. We were running some numbers from January 1st. If you just look January 1st this year till now, I mean, it's like points in 6 straight 5-game losing streak. It's like 4-game winning streak, 5-game losing streak. I mean, it's back and forth all the way till they just had points in 8, and then they dropped this game. So the big thing to me, I do think they are different. I love what they have right now, but I'm really interested to see how they respond now. Like, how do they respond after that loss the other night? Can they get right back into it? Like, they can't let this bleed into a 2, 3, 4 game.
They're facing Colorado tonight.
Yeah, that to me is where I'm really watching to see if they're different. And I will say this though, I love the player and Josh Norris, but I love that they rattled the cage of the core. Like, I think it was needed. I think that there's something. And again, I'm not in that room. I know how close him and Brady were, and you saw that in Brady's emotional interview. And but sometimes I feel like there needs to be a message of, it's a business here, and we need results. And I don't know what that did inside that room. It feels like it shook them up enough. I like the ad that they have in Dylan Cousins. I think that move could really help this team. It was time, and they made it at the right time.
Do you have faith that they finally have their goaltender they need to get this team where it needs to be? Could this team win a playoff round for you? Unless it's Florida. I feel like it's Florida. I don't want to talk about it.
I definitely, I certainly think they can. I'll tell you what I want to see. I want to see Toronto.
Everybody does.
Just picture this though. Let's just paint this picture. All the years that Toronto has Boston, all the years that Toronto runs into one of the Florida teams, or it's like, well, even if you just kept it Boston, that's enough right there, where that's their Achilles heel. Like they can't get past that. And this year, there's things that Toronto's doing differently where I think they are set up to maybe have more success in the playoffs than they've had in the past. A lot of that's due to I think their head coach and the way they play and their goaltending. Can you imagine if they got the Battle of Ontario and part of them is probably licking their chops, like as a franchise, just the nightmares you had with some of those other teams, and then Ottawa just coming in there and doing their thing. Like that would send Leafs Nation into an absolute tizzy if we haven't seen it already. But it would be the most. I want to see it. That's what I would love to see. But I certainly, even if it's not them, they've got an opportunity. They've got a chance. They've got talent. The goaltending is huge, and it's part of the learning process. And I think this team's got swagger to them. I'll tell you, I talked to Tim Stützle again when I was up there in Ottawa, and I've talked to him a couple different times interviewing him. My reaction, and I use this word, John Tortorella uses the word arrogance in a pot. Usually when we hear arrogance, it's like kind of denotes like a negative demeanor of somebody. But Torts used to always use it, and it's a positive. I think it's a very positive for a hockey player. I want arrogance on my team. So I want to get that out of the way. I talked to Tim Stützle. He said about 4 words. I'm like, I love this kid. This kid does not give a like. I don't know how else to explain it. Like he wasn't rude. He wasn't. He was just very like. I said something to him basically about that. I asked him a question about his fieriness, and that I liked his not putting up with any crap, type of a personality. And I kind of asked like where that came from. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, what do you mean? Like, that's who I am. I'm like, oh, but like the way he answered it, I'm like, that to me, you need guys like that. You need guys. And I know that it goes beyond that. We know what Brady does and we see it on the night to night basis there. But like another example I would use, the New York Rangers, follow them pretty closely. I live in New Jersey, and that team was too vanilla personality wise. Like they have a good team, even dating it back to last year. And I even said last year, I was concerned that they have an identity problem as far as who they are, and they have too many of the same players. Great guys. Don't get me wrong. Everything I've heard, and I played with Chris Kreider. I mean, these guys are awesome human beings, but not everybody. Like you need some abrasion. You need some of that internally on your team as well. And I feel like Ottawa has a few of those guys. They have alphas. And not until the Rangers got JT Miller, we saw that spark that he gives them, because JT Miller, he's rough around the edges. And it feels like Ottawa has those pieces. So that's my long-winded answer, saying, I think they can make some noise because they got some disruptors on that team. And that's what you need come playoff time.
Rupper, Wally and I were having this discussion because it's ironically enough, we had Timmy Stützle on our show yesterday. We could have went 3 hours with him. Like an hour went by like that. Because usually when you ask a guy a question, you get the vanilla answer.
Yeah.
I love the fact he's not afraid of the moment. And I 100% agree with you. You need guys that aren't just shucks and that, but you got to have that swagger. He's got that. How about this too? How many hockey players do you know can do a standing backflip? I don't know. How does this come up anyhow, Wally?
It just has to be any talents.
He goes, I can do a standing backflip. And I'm like, all right.
Really? That's incredible. I mean, I thought that might take it to a new level. I mean, Chris Kreider has done it's a YouTube, but jumping out of the pool, right? Like he jumps out of the pool. That's impressive. But I wouldn't think a hockey player would be able to do that.
Right.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Is there excitement around the league for a potential of Brady Tkachuk showing what he can do in a playoff series?
Yeah, I think that is especially coming off of Four Nations, which did so much south of the border. Like it's in the States, it was. I don't know how to express what it did for hockey here in the States. And Brady was a huge reason why.
Yeah.
Not just because of that fight, and starting the way that first game went against Canada. But it was just I had many people reaching out that don't know nothing about hockey. They were like, I love this Kachuk. I love this kid. Like just hitting, physicality, forcing your will upon the opponent. Like he's a throwback. Like we knew this.
Yes.
But he is a guy that we have to see in the playoffs. Because that's a guy. Look, and I don't want to make it. They're their own people, but look what Matthew has done down there. Like you talk about willing his team along. I would argue that Brady has more ability to drag his team over the finish line than Matthew does. I think Matthew's an attitude that he brings. Brady's got an attitude, but he can literally drag you across the line too. And so that's why I think this is a fun group to watch. And I think guys like Brady takes that pressure off Timmy Stützle. It takes some of the pressure off. I mean, they got some one of my favorite gamers that I've loved watching his complimentary play over the years. David Perron's a gamer. Like I can't wait to see him back in the playoffs. I really can't. Like he's a guy that can elevate. I don't care where you're at during the regular season. I need to see another level come playoff time. And I think Ottawa has some guys that can find that level. And Brady's probably the biggest one that I'm excited to see.
Yeah. You mentioned David Perron, who he's had a long year of off-ice stuff to deal with. And lately, though, since he's been playing, he's been extremely consistent. Mike, I know I've kept you. Last before you go, you played on one of the greatest teams ever. I told you.
There it is.
So for those who haven't seen the Untold, the Danbury Trashers documentary, it is amazing. So during the lockout, I was trying to find a beer league jersey, and I was looking through all kinds of minor league teams, and I found this one, but it was impossible to get. I had to pull some strings through the NHL to get this jersey. Anyway, I just wanted you to know I've had it since then, and it wasn't just because of the doc. Can you take me in a 30-second answer through playing for the Danbury Trashers?
So I said it in the documentary. I had no idea what I was kind of getting into there. But it was incredible. I mean, they treated you like, these are all going to be, you can kind of bring it back to any mob movies you've watched. They treated you like family, treated you well. They once you were on the inside there, they treated you like gold. They treated you like an NHL player. And the only thing was it was in the United Hockey League. And they also would stop on the side of the turnpike or on the side of the interstate, and the lights would turn on, and you'd see somebody get on the bus at 2 a.m. You're like, who the hell is this? And that guy's coming to play the next 2 games. And then he would get ejected from both games, and then we'd stop at the same truck stop and drop him off on the way home. And I'm like, you look up who the guy was, and he hasn't played hockey in 4 years. He was expelled out of this league and that league. But you start going down the list of guys, man, it was nuts. I mean, a pretty skilled group of players, but a boatload, like legit 8 heavyweights on that team. Guys that had great the monikers that John Nasty Morasti. You had Frank Animal Bialois. You had you can go
Roman Ender got 20 game suspension for attacking an official.
I mean, you went on and on with these guys, and it was such a good group too. And so I think that was the big thing. And I know that the one thing, Jimmy Galante was awesome. And that was the owner of the team. And again, he had his 18-year-old son that was the GM and brought all these players in. That Jimmy would sit up there, and he have his like, it was like a bomber jacket on with like fur collar, and the collar would be up, and he would be up there. And every once in a while, like certain guys on the bench would just look up at him, and he would just do this, and then brawl would happen. It was literally Slapshot and The Sopranos collide. I wouldn't exchange it for anything. I still have relationships from that day. They did a great job on that documentary as well.
We had
Rupper,
T-Bone on the show.
So I got it. I got to roll it back here a second. You guys stop at a truck stop, and some dude comes on the bus, and he's going to play with you for the next. Like, what are you guys saying on the bus?
All right. What's so here's I'm going to give you a quick little story here. If you guys got time, and then
we got time.
the other part of it is to give you a little bit of the way it worked out for me. So that's lockout year, and I was 23 years old. I needed to play somewhere. I had my second kid, and he had a couple health concerns where I wasn't comfortable going to Europe. So it's like I can't go play in the American League. That's not an option. So I got a phone call. Actually, you guys remember that Chris and Peter Ferraro, the twins. So the Ferraro brothers reach out to me and they say, "Hey, there's this guy down in Danbury, Connecticut. He wants to put this team together. He wants to win a Stanley Cup championship in his league, the United Hockey League, and he's willing to pay guys and get guys from the NHL to come there to play." So I'm like, I'll listen to what he has to say. So the setup was, all I needed to do is play 10 regular season games to qualify for their playoff roster. So I was living in Erie, Pennsylvania, where I played junior hockey, and they basically said, just look at the calendar, pick 10 games. We got like 25 games left, and yada yada. So that's what I did. I played basically every other weekend. I practiced with the Erie Otters in the OHL and during the week. So they would fly me in for those games. I went in for one weekend. I'm like, I could bang out. It was a 3-3 up in Michigan. We were bouncing around Michigan, the U-Haul, and I'm like playing 3 games, 3 nights. And so prior me coming there, Barry Melrose, Steve Levy, they own the Adirondack team. Barry Melrose said somewhere it got printed that he said Tony Soprano was running that Danbury Trashers team. And Jimmy didn't like this. He didn't like being referred to as that. He thought it was disrespectful, and you don't disrespect him. So that happened before I'm on this 3-3 trip in Michigan. The next weekend is our team's first game up in Adirondack since that occurred. I'm not scheduled to play that weekend just because I'm playing this weekend and I'm going every other weekend. So I'm on the bus, and you guys know John Morasti, tough as nails. He was sitting behind me on the bus, and I had my head against like the window, and I'm sleeping. And John's on the phone, Nasty's on the phone. He leans forward, like talking like into the back of the seat, but it's like right into my ear. And I'm hearing one side of a conversation. He goes, he says, I hear, "Hey buddy, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. What are you up to? Okay. Do you want to come play hockey next weekend?" And, he goes, no, I know. It's been a while. No, listen, man, we just need you to come in and be a dum-dum. It's literally word for word what he says. And he says what I just told you. Our owner's ticked off because he was disrespected by another owner. He wants to go up here and make a statement. We want you to come in. And he goes, I know, dude, you don't have to be in shape. Well, literally, you got to go out there and just stir it up. And then he's talking. He's like, he's going to pay you this, blah, blah, blah. All right. Okay, cool. I'll call you tomorrow. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I end up, when I'm leaving that trip, I said to a couple of guys on the team, I go, "Hey, keep me posted what's going on next weekend. I'm so curious what's going on." So that next weekend, what's his name? Chad Wagner, I think, was his name. He was, if you look him up, he was suspended, or he was abolished in like a couple different pro leagues. And they brought him in for it was Chad or Chris Wagner. I think it was Chad Wagner. And
Chad Wagner played 3 games for the Trashers.
Give me some stat lines on him from other places he's at. Does it show?
The Asheville Smoke, the San Diego Gulls, the Dayton Bombers, Cincinnati Mighty Ducks.
Rupper,
he had 463 penalty minutes for the Asheville Smoke of the UHL in 58 games.
Rupper, 521 PIMs in 43 games for the San Diego Gulls. 521 PIMs.
So what ends up happening is this weekend, the weekend happens. They're up there, and there's brawls that happen in the game. The guy gets escorted to the penalty box, leaves the penalty box, goes and grabs Adirondack's head coach, pulls him down by his suit jacket, throws a punch at him. So this guy gets kicked out of the league forever. He was running a hunting lodge or something in Western Canada prior to this for the last 4 years. He doesn't even play hockey. So he's like, cool, that's fine. And so I remember you fast forward in the playoffs, we were playing Adirondack, and my stepfather went to come up to one of the games, and he was talking with Barry Melrose, and Barry was like, "What's Mike doing playing for these guys?" That's what he said. And my stepdad didn't know anything about any of this. So I'm like, "No, it's good. They're a good group of guys. Like, they're helping me get out here and get skating and whatever." But yeah, but it was nuts. They would just bring these guys in. These guys would just, take, the guys loved it. The guys came in, they make like $2,000 a game. They come in here, just, blow off some steam and get a couple fights in your blood and then move on.
And then you would take your bag of cash and go home.
Yeah. It was an experience. I'll say that.
We need to get Chad Wagner on the show, on the talk show, Wally. God. We need Wagner on the show. He had 75 penalty minutes in those 3 games he played for the Danbury Trashers.
I think I think it was, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure the guys told me there was like 4 shifts. Like, it wasn't even like, it was like 4 shifts and he has 75 minutes.
Okay. He got on the game sheet. The game sheet.
Right. Get noticed, man. You got noticed.
That's what matters.
For sure.
One last picture before we go. And this is how we basically sum up the show most days. And you'll appreciate playing with Ken Daneyko. One of my favorite pictures we have.
You don't want to see this, Rupper. You don't want to see this.
So this is
Dano's a lefty too, isn't he?
Hey, listen, I'll tell you the story behind this, because remember we talked about when the league used to have this current game against New Jersey Devils. You remember Andre Waugh?
Yeah.
So Andre was out there doing Andre stuff, and he just runs over Scotty Niedermayer. So obviously, you run over Scotty Niedermayer, there's going to be a response. Next shift, Andre's on the ice. The jersey's got Scotty Stevens. Remember that big mutant, Christoph Oliwa?
Oh, yeah.
Ollie was on the ice. Like, I'm going to kill you, Andre. So there's Oliwa, there's Daneyko, there's Randy McKay, Lyle Odeline. And I just happened to draw my number on that shift. So sure enough, puck drops, all 5 guys go looking for a guy. I'm looking at shit. Who I got? Oliwa, Odeline. Oh, I guess I got Daneyko. And so I just, same thing, kind of like what old Travis Hamonic did with you. I figure out, I grab on. I'm a pretty strong guy. And I'm like, fuck, he's a lefty. This is why my nose moves around like this. But
you didn't know he was lefty? No one yelled?
Well, it was too much chaos going on. There was 5 different things going on. And I think I played at about $1.92 that year. And Kenny, what's Kenny, like 220, 225? A little bit of a... But I still laugh about that every time I see him. He's a great guy.
Dano is he's a huge reason. And when you go back to 2003, remember that we traded for Oleg Treverdowski. He was playing. Dano was a scratch, I think, for the first time in his career, and he was planning on probably retiring regardless of that year. He didn't play a game in the finals until Game 7. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and check. He didn't play all that much in that playoff run, and he was such an important piece for us inside that room. That Pat Burns, I got goosebumps saying it now. When Pat Burns put him in for Game 7, what a boost it was for us to have Dano, Mr. Devil, in there with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because the guy, what he's been through in his career, and him winning 2 cups prior. I remember distinctly Game 7. I had the game of my life in Game 7. I always go back to, people are like, well, what happened there? And I genuinely mean this. I was the most relaxed I don't want to say I ever was, but in a big moment, it was just this uncanniness of me being relaxed. And I go back to our team snack at the hotel. And we had our 4:30 snack before you go over to the game, get over there at 5 for a 7 o'clock game 7. And I always had my bagel with peanut butter and a coffee. And I'm sitting down at a table, and John Madden and Ken Daneyko are sitting at my table, and they're telling old war stories. And Dano's telling this great story about, I think they were playing in Buffalo back in the 80s, and Dano bumped their goalie. And the next shift, I don't remember who it was, someone came out to fight him and lines up on the draw. Dano's lined up, being a defenseman, and I don't remember wherever it was, he was lined up shoulder to shoulder with the winger on the opposing team, whatever face-off thought it was at. And the the guy comes in, he's facing Dano, not like looking towards the dot. He's square to Dano, and Dano turns around and he goes, the guy has no stick in his hand. He came off the bench and forgot his stick on the bench. So he's like, I wonder why you're out here. And the guy's like, oh yeah, shit. And he went back, got his stick, came back, and then he, got in a fight. So I'm just dying laughing hearing Dano deliver these types of stories. And I literally was going to the game. I'm watching Marty Brodeur walk around with his coffee, shoulders back. I'm looking at Scott Stevens, looking at Scott Niedermeyer, and Dano playing in this game. And I'm like, oh, am I ever taken care of in this game? I got no worries in the world. Absolute warriors who've won before and gone through all this. Like, I got nothing to worry about. And, a guy like Ken Daneyko keeping the room light is what kept me being not too nervous for a game 7.
He was a war. Anyway, absolutely. I've kept you way too long. I apologize, Mike. We appreciate you stopping by, though. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Anytime, guys. And hey, I'll be rooting for the Ottawa Senators from afar too, and hopefully get some playoff success here.
We appreciate it. We will look forward to a Sens Leafs showdown in round 1.
I hope so.
Thanks. Take care, guys. Mike Rupp, the National Hockey League NHL Network.
I gotta say, Wally, I'm telling you right now, it's getting the Yorkie guarantee on it for this.
He's so
today's talk show. It's just great stories. What's funny? The more Mike talks hockey, you always hear about 6 degrees of separation. I think Mike and I have about 1 degree. I played for Barry Melrose in the minors, Barry's first year.
Both played
in Adirondack. Yeah, Jeff Friesen and I were good friends in Anaheim. Oh boy, it's just good. I love. You know what? The stories are the best. The stories are the best. It's some good stuff there from Mike.
That's the problem. Like I'm trying to set up today's game at the same time. I'm like,
come on.
Like people we had stories. Pictures like fighting Andre Waugh and stuff that we just never got to. Anyway, let's move on. Take care of some business. You stand.
Hey, hold on a second. How about this? You kind of fluffed over this pretty quick. You might be the reason why the Ottawa Senators lost to the New Jersey Devils because of your chit-chats with Jeff Friesen.
So I don't tell that story, especially I didn't tell it for a long, long time because people are like, oh my God, it's you. I'm like, okay, it's not me. Jeff Friesen is scoring goals. But yeah, in the Eastern Final, he had scored 2 goals in the 2 games that we'd spoken. So he made it a joke when I came into the room the next time.
Why did you take the last call?
Because I have no impact, and if it made him feel
well, obviously you did. You brought it up.
Anyway, it was
Friesen thought there was an impact.
Yeah, he scored 2 goals in the Cup final, Game 7, I think. Anyway, so I never brought it up after. Like I would never tell people because it'd be so wound up.
You just told everybody.
Well, now it's like 23 years or 22 years. So I think we're good now. But maybe not. Maybe I'll have to leave Ottawa now.
I think you might be in a little trouble here.
All right. Moving on. This show brought to you by Gabriel Pizza, the official pizza of the Ottawa Senators. And of course, coming in hot, earn points with every purchase on the app and get access to exclusive deals with the Gabriel Pizza perks. Order on the Gabriel Pizza app or online at GabrielPizza.com. Don't forget tonight, if the Sens score 4, then tomorrow and every time the Sens score 4, you get 40% off a 9-inch pizza. I'm all rattled now that you talk about this Jeff Friesen thing and people are going to be upset with me.
People are coming for you.
Download the Gabriel Pizza app and save 40% off any 9-inch pizza the day after the Sens score 4. BEI, Yorkie.
Yeah, our good friends at BEI. And, spring's just around the corner. That means it's time to start thinking about landscaping. And BEI can help you with all your landscape needs. Spruce up that driveway, maybe some extra aggregate, get some beautiful stone. They can do all those things for you. So give them a call, 613-432-1120, or go to bonasherexcavating.com. BEI, as always, is helping to shape the Ottawa Valley.
And of course, breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. I don't think they left anything out there. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app today and use code NATION, all in uppercase letters, NATION. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Yorkie, it's time to get to the game tonight. The Colorado Avalanche in town. I just have a couple of numbers, and I don't really want to share them. Colorado is 8-0-1 in its last 9 versus Ottawa. They've won 5 straight. 3-0-1 their last 4 visits to Ottawa. Makar is 8-0 in his career versus the Ottawa Senators. He has points in 7 of 8 games. However, they did lose last night.
Yeah, they shouldn't have lost.
In
So
Toronto.
they're going to be pissed. They're going to be pissed. you and I briefly glazed over this during chit chat time. Anybody that watched that game last night, Colorado, or was it Toronto shooting the puck down the ice, hits the ref. The ref falls down.
Yeah.
The ref wipes out. Puck bounces off him right to Toronto. They go down and score. I think Colorado had 39 shots. They should have won that game. So I know it's back-to-back, but Colorado's going to be a very motivated team tonight. So add in the extra motivation and the record, Wally.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Ottawa plays better against really good teams versus teams that are near the just kind of mingling at the bottom. They just look at some of the games. They seem to elevate.
Yes.
In games like this. So you never know.
It'll be interesting to see how they perform tonight. Some parts of me say, hey, they're going to be great because they play great against really good teams. Other make me think that Colorado might just pump. By the way, the last 3 games, the scores well over 9 goals a game, I think, in each of the last 3 games combined. 5-4, 7-4, 6-4. So we'll see how that plays out. Okay, Jake, let's get right to the puppies. We'll take Charlie, the clubhouse leader, first.
Okay, Charlie, we got a big one tonight. We got Colorado, Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon in town to face the Ottawa Senators. So who are you picking tonight? Do you have the Ottawa Senators or the Colorado Avalanche? Choose wisely. Let's try to stop her. Holy shit, go right. Charlie is going with the Avs.
Ouch. Okay,
Gert.
Yeah.
Okay, Gert. Who you got? Ottawa, Colorado. It's a tough game.
Oh, this mosey's over.
Colorado has been very good against Ottawa. It might not be a terrible decision, but we could use the win here in Ottawa.
Okay.
Do we?
So Yorkie? Yeah.
Do we have some confirmation if one Nick Jensen is back in the lineup yet?
I wouldn't be shocked, but because they didn't skate yesterday, I don't know. So they're going to skate here in 23 minutes, and we'll find out. I think the plan was possibly like a week off. So I'm not sure if it's this game or one more, but I suspect he'll be back here shortly.
Yeah. I was kind of the impression it was going to be like a little bit of not just the one game. So like get him as close to, because nobody's 100% right now. No, nobody's 100%.
No. People are arguing about Brady being 100%, right? He says he's
not 100%. No way. Nobody is.
No,
something's going on, and he's not, and smart on him. You don't want to admit if something's going on, but that's the first. What are you going to say? That's the first game. Like, I can't remember the last time Brady didn't register a hit in a game. So for sure, everyone's battling something right now. It's just the schedule's been so condensed. And the worst thing is you take that time off at Four Nations, then you come right back and play a ton of games. So it's extremely tough on the body. So,
what's your pick?
I'm going with Colorado. I think this is going to I think it's going to tighten up a little bit more. Get Sens fans a little nervous. And then the Sens will get back on the horse here. If Colorado would have lost last night, and it's the way they lost, and don't forget they're in a wild card spot. They're not in a top 3 spot in their division right now, so they have lots to play for, and so too does Ottawa. So hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm just
because they play New Jersey next Saturday. So I wouldn't be shocked if we might not see Jensen until then, but the New Jersey game is certainly a winnable game for them for sure.
Yeah. Hey, listen, they can win this. They can win this game. But they're gonna have to. You can't turn the puck over like you did last game against Montreal. You gotta. No, you don't have to play a perfect. You're never gonna play a perfect game, but you got to manage the puck a lot better.
I will say Brady's career I just had it handy. By the way, Nathan McKinnon, 33 points in 20 games versus the Ottawa Senators, including a 4-goal, 5-point night. Brady, 15 points in 10 career games against the Colorado Avalanche. David Perron has 22 goals in 53 games against the Avs. I know it doesn't count because it's mostly all like West teams, but maybe Brady comes alive tonight. The pod bump from Stu, Brady up. Might be.
Does anybody from Colorado like call you before the game? Like to get good luck? Like now that we know what's going on here.
Why? You know what? I'm just not going to talk anymore. That's it. I'm going to shut down. I got to give away a golf pass before we get.
Hey, Wally, it's Friesen here. Just calling Neil good luck for the game tonight. Not like it's a playoff game. No problem, Friesen. What do you need? Anything for you, bud? Anything for you.
Thomas Walsh, sir. You have won today's golf at Mountain Creek, which is an Iron Prior. Okay, Yorkie, I got to get to the rink. They're on the ice here. Well, they're actually already on the ice skating. So
I got to get to Toronto. I got to beat traffic. I got to play in a charity event tomorrow. So I got to get going too. So let's
line up some guests while you're there. I don't know who you're playing with.
Yeah, I'll get somebody. Right.
I've asked Zenon Konopka, so if you see him,
I think he's going to be there. I'll talk to the Big Z.
All right.
Little Z.
Have a great weekend. Good luck at the tournament. We'll chat Monday and see how it's going.
All right. See you, everybody.
See you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.